Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Grief Angels podcast. This is yet another season, another year, another episode where we are talking about grief, demystifying what grief is, and actually just normalizing grieving and grief conversations. We need the world to get very comfortable with grief. It's something that happens to all of us, so it doesn't make any sense why we still don't talk about grief enough. I am your host, Rose Gishure. Happy to be back in studio. And today I am joined by a lovely friend of mine, Koki. Hi, Koki.
Hi, Rose.
How are you?
I'm okay.
You're okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You look nice.
Thanks. You look good too. How
Thank
are you?
Thank you. I try. So, Koki, talk to us about your grief journey. Obviously, I know you've lost your mom to cancer. Maybe you can talk to us about when that happened, what cancer it was, and yeah, then we can take it from there.
Yeah, so I lost my mom to cancer in
When was it?
2023. So that was last year.
Okay.
And she was diagnosed in 2022. So she had cancer for 1 year.
Okay.
And she had gallbladder cancer, stage 4.
Stage 4. Okay. So you're coming up to almost a year now. Yeah. Almost a year. Yeah. Okay. I'm really, really sorry for your loss. I know it has not been easy. We have walked a little bit of this journey together when you came to join the support groups, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the reason of this conversation today is to talk about anticipatory grief, because for a lot of cancer patients and a lot of cancer families that are dealing with cancer, there's a lot of hope that the person is going to get better, but there's also, I guess, depending on the cancer and the diagnosis and what stage it is in, there's a place where the doctors almost call it. And I don't know if, at least in the movies, they'll say this person has 6 weeks to live. For your case, you sort of knew that that was going to be the end at some point, and you began to prepare for it. So, which is something a lot of Kenyans don't do, right? Maybe let's start with, at what point did you say, hey, this is happening, we need to prepare for it? And who even brought it up? Is it you? Is it your mom?
Yeah, so I'd say at the beginning when we got the diagnosis, there was definitely that element of hope where you believe or have some hope that this is different.
Yeah.
I mean, this story won't end in this person not being there.
Yeah.
And you almost hope and just say, I mean, with this treatment, and it's still a new, I think for us it was new, we had never experienced anything like this before. So you're very green and you're just thinking, I think that there's some hope, this will get better. And I think with cancer, you start treatment almost immediately.
Yeah.
And you do scans periodically to almost tell you how far the cancer has progressed.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, I think we had hope because we knew that it was stage 2. And that's all we knew. And stage 2 sounds like an early stage. Like, yeah, I think that's not too bad from at least layman knowledge. But I think for me, or rather, at least let me just speak for myself. For me, once it got to stage 4, once we knew that it was stage 4, I had carried with me a lot of hope. I had that hope of it's stage 2, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
And I remember we used to speak and just say, it's just a small tumor. It's just we made it look very, just I guess to also comfort ourselves. But I guess for me, once it reached stage 4, and I had that hope, I squished off that hope completely, and I knew that this was coming, and I can carry hope, or I can just choose to know it's coming and deal with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what does deal with it mean, and what did that look like for you?
I think what that looked like for me dealing with it is, one, there was a lot of mental rehearsal. There's a lot of thinking about that day when this person you love so much won't be there. There's thinking about that moment and trying to imagine what will that moment look like? What will that future look like?
Yeah.
And how will they get there? Yet now you're talking to them. And I think our brains are not big enough to reconcile such kind of a reality. And for me, dealing with it was actively, and I think it's natural, you cannot avoid it, just thinking about that time that she won't be there. And it got to a point, and I don't know what to say, thankfully, but she also thought about it and vocalized it.
Okay.
So I think it gave me that space and that room to also vocalize how I felt about that future where she might not be with
With you. Yeah. Okay, and you said our brains are not big enough to whatever. Our hearts are barely reconciling the fact that this person that you love so much is not going to be there. And I think for a lot of us and how we've grown up, at least in our African societies, which are very, very religious and a lot of deep in spirituality, it's almost like accepting that, you know what, this is going to happen, the hope, the faith that you have, the prayers that you're making, but then knowing that this is a terminal illness, it's going to come. Earlier when you were speaking, you were talking about it's like a piano over your head that's going to drop. You know, the piano is going to drop on you. How do you balance those emotions to accept that it's coming and I need to get myself into a place where we need to now start the practical stuff that we're about to get into?
I'd say, can you really balance it? Yeah. I wouldn't say I balanced. I think people, like, on face value, it looked like I balanced, but inside I was battling a lot of, I think it's shock and almost stepping out of reality, and sometimes asking myself, are we really thinking about this? Are we really talking about this? Yeah. And as I said, it really felt like a piano over my head, and it's that feeling of, you know, something is coming, it's gonna hit you hard, but you don't know when it's coming, and it won't warn you, it'll just fall. Yeah. And you live in panic. But I think what, for me, I'd say triggered that practical planning, I'd say, was my mother's personality. Okay. And for my mother, she was a believer, and there was an element of hope, at least on her end, but there was still an element of reality that this is stage 4. It might be terminal, or rather it is. I remember we never used to like using that word. We thought that it's us saying that it's ending. So we just said it might be. And we need to think about a future of when she won't be there. And she really wanted to control what she could control when she was still here with us. Yeah. So we had to get to a point of talking about the difficult things, the practical stuff, the future. And I guess it took time. It did not happen immediately. We had a lot of moments of just silence and tears. I think it's a feeling that's too heavy to describe in words, even for the person going through it. Even if you love each other, it's very heavy. And it took time. It took time, a lot of silence, a lot of tears. And at some point, I realized that I was going through it internally in my room alone. She's going through it in her room alone. I mean, we might as well just share and hold each other and talk about what we're thinking and plan. Okay. Because this is almost inevitable. Okay. You cannot wish it away. Okay. And at some point saying, I cannot even pray it away. Yeah. Yeah.
And I know the practicality of it is sitting through the what comes next. Yeah. So today she's here, tomorrow she's not going to be here. What next? Which is something a lot of, I'd say, even from my own experience, a lot of us don't get to do because, and maybe it's the way we're brought up, because you sort of go at life and go at this either illnesses or if it's an accident, not ready. So a lot of people are not necessarily prepared. We have a lot of families that go through this without ever discussing stuff like this, and then the person dies, and then was there a will? Did they want to be cremated or not? Did they want to be buried in shags or in the city? Like, nobody talks about that kind of stuff because you're almost told you're inviting death into the home, even when the person is terminally ill. Yeah. So I mean, I hope as a society we can evolve to a place where we get comfortable with stuff like this, and even just not just talking about it, but even being practical and now putting things in order. A lot of parents are dying today without letting their kids know what their net worth is, where the property is, where the stuff is. So let's sort of, I guess, zero in on the actual conversations between you and your mom. What did you guys prepare for?
Yeah. I'd say I think that's definitely true. I think Africans and generally the society tiptoes around the conversation of death. Yeah. And for us, we came to a reality that this is mortality, like we're going to die. And just because we talk about it does not mean we're calling it. And it's going to happen sooner or later. It's going to happen to all of us. And I'd say once again, my mom's personality was very practical. And I think the key things that we discussed, I'd say at least from her end, as I said, she wanted to control what she could while she was still alive and plan for when she won't be there. And I remember she told me something very profound, that when that time comes and she won't be there, she told me, you'll be very confused and you won't even know what to do. You won't almost remember a lot of things. And we talked about the funeral. We talked about the funeral home. We talked about the color of the coffin, the handles, the flowers,
everything,
the songs. If she could even write her own eulogy. So I think she was just really emotional and could not come to do that. But she planned everything to do the funeral itself and talked about it with me, and went ahead, found a book and wrote it down, because she told me, you will forget and I will write it for you. And open this book when that time comes and I'll have everything planned out for you. I think that really helped me, because definitely I was confused when that happened. And I went back and everything was planned and I knew what to do, and that really helped me. And I think even after the funeral, or even during the funeral, I think just decisions that she would have wanted, her preferences, the type of service she wanted, the type of program that she wanted, where she wanted to be buried, I think she had a say. She had a say, and she had me as her advocate to say what she wanted, even when she was not there. And I think that gave me a lot of authority.
Okay.
Yeah.
Especially now with family and the society, because like we said earlier, this person belongs to the society, that she grew up in, a community that brought her up and made her who she was. So they almost have a say in it. And also because you're not able to buy this person by yourself, you need the community around you. So there's a lot of entitlement that comes with that. Alikuwa mtu wetu, she was my sister, she was my whatever it is, or I'm her best friend. I know what she would have wanted. But then I think, like you've said, the fact that she prepared for all this validated your voice in those conversations. And would you say you were able to honor a lot of her wishes 100%?
I think 120.
120%.
Yeah. I think I got an extra strength and an extra voice because I knew who was speaking in my ear.
Yeah.
I think it gave me that feeling of, I'm not giving an idea of what I want. I'm telling you what she wanted.
But then how does that sit with people who, the rest of society? There's a committee that comes to meet every day.
Yeah, I mean...
How does that sit? Because you're like, why are we even here? I'd ask you, not on my Twitter.
Well,
because
definitely.
if you know what you want,
then
why are you not doing that? Yeah,
I think it's something for, you need community. Yeah. And even if I know what I want, I don't know where to get catering from. Yeah. Like, I don't know where to get those things from. Yeah. And at least it's not everything that I had really planned to the T. Yeah. But most bigger things that I knew she was very specific about, or particular about, I had planned that. And I think I'd say there was definitely a moment of a bit of friction, especially with family and society on just different beliefs and different preferences. But I think what helped me is, as I told you earlier, my mother and I also talked about this. And we had moments of me telling her, Mom, this one, no. I think let's be a bit like...
realistic with this.
Realistic with this. Like, be more flexible. Like, let's allow ABC for the sake of ABC.
Okay.
That helped.
Okay. That helps. That and people will always, like I told you also earlier, the difference between what you went through and what, say, I've gone through is I'm operating from a place of, during the funeral conversations and the burial prep and planning, I'm coming in with, I think this is what they would have wanted. Yeah. But again, that's according to who? According to me and the relationship I had with this person. Yeah. It may or may not have been what they'd have wanted, but I'm the one who's here, who's speaking. They also didn't tell me what they wanted because we didn't do a good job at preparing and planning for this, even when we knew it was a terminal illness, right? Because for a lot of families, we are clouded by hope. And hope is good because hope keeps you going. Yeah. Hope keeps you alive because you can lose your hope. Yeah. And then you're like, we're not doing anything. Then this is it. Yeah. But I guess the thing that we probably need to get better at is the practicality of things, which is that side of hope is good. But to be honest, this is what we're looking at. And now brings in even the other question around healthcare professionals. To what extent should doctors who are treating terminal illnesses be straight up with us and say, guys, here we're going to call it, you're looking at 6 months at best, maybe 4. Yeah. And if the person gets to 8, well and good.
Yeah.
A year, well and good. But they have been practical with you, because then what doctors do is they continue to sell this hope, which is pegged on this other treatment, alternative treatment, or this other medicine, or this other thing that has been tried in India. Let's go to South Africa, let's go to wherever.
Yeah.
And you're chasing all these different things and draining all your resources, because the doctor is not able to be upfront and say, this one, there's no, just go manage the person in a hospice. Even.
Yeah. I'd say, I think, according to me, they do have almost a responsibility to let you know at what point you should, how do I put this? At what point you should, I don't say lose hope, but like get your things in order. There's a way that they can put it, such that you don't lose hope, but you know that there's an end and it's near.
Yeah.
I'd say for our case, there was that option, like there was that hope of, let's try this treatment. And it kept us, moving to the next, hoping there's something else.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I'd say, luckily, but at the back of our minds, we'd go home and say, we're trying, but I think they had a responsibility that in my case, I wish they told us that actually we're just trying, it might not work. I wish they told us that we're just managing the condition and not really trying to treat this. Yeah. I don't think we got that. And if I got that, I don't know how different it would have been, because either way, I think at the back of my mind, we already planned. But I think we'd have planned faster. Yeah.
Okay.
I think faster. And but also at the same time, I think I also give some, I have some sympathy, or rather empathize with the healthcare professionals, because I'm imagining in this case an oncologist sees so many of these kind of cases. Sometimes it goes really well, sometimes it doesn't, and they almost don't have a blueprint of this is what happens with this kind of a condition.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking there must be some kind of general guidance,
something that we can work with. Yeah.
And even if it's saying you might have this amount of time or more, but if you don't give us that, we just go ahead. Because I remember my mom and I thinking, I remember she used to say, because she passed away in May last year, and she used to say, I think I have until October. And
that's what she thought.
I think for me, that's what crushed me. As much as I did not have a lot of hope, there was that idea that I know you're going to go, but not now.
Later. Somewhere in the future.
Somewhere in Q4.
Yeah, not now.
Not now.
Yeah.
I think when it happened, it shocked me, because now, I thought there was time.
Okay. Yeah. And I know the other thing that we also mentioned to do with the healthcare professionals, this thing of calling and giving you a semblance of how much time you have does something, because it sort of helps this family spend time and resources wisely, because instead of us chasing all these other different treatments that could or could not work, we need to spend time with the person. That time that you think they have, can we spend time making memories?
Yeah.
Can they get to see their family members? Can they get to say their goodbyes in a sense? Can we have more, let people come and visit this person, let people come and let's take pictures, let's take them in videos, instead of having this person constantly under medication, in ICU, in a hospital room, by themselves, sad and lonely, draining our money, draining our everything, and our pain and our energy and everything. Yeah, I mean, I think for me that's what would be helpful, and I wish also somebody did that with my people.
Yeah. I'd say it's 2 ways, because when I was in that particular situation and we had to pay for so many tests, I was willing to remove all my money and everything, because you're thinking, I need to do everything that I can.
Yeah.
And you almost have an power or an urge to have this person stay longer with you. So it's a bit difficult when you are in that position to not do everything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think one thing that really worked well for us was we really prioritized spending time together. And we were very intentional about spending time with each other and saying the I love yous. And I remember my mom used to call them the goodbyes. And I was saying, don't say goodbye, because it feels like you're going now.
Yeah.
But being very intentional about, even if you never used to do these things on a regular basis, like going for picnics, we used to go for dates every other 2 weeks, and being very intentional about what you talk about.
Okay.
I think that's what
allows you the time to do this.
Yes,
okay.
it did.
Let's talk about after the funeral now, I'm guessing your mom didn't just plan the funeral and that's it.
Yep.
She planned for the future where she wasn't going to be in, that you would continue to need her, even asset management or whatever it is. What did that look like, and how did that planning help you now after May?
I think after the funeral, the first thing that I'd say every person should do, terminally ill or not, is have a will. Have a valid will and inform your loved ones where the will is, which lawyer is handling the will, what is in the will. Talk about it in detail, especially if you have maybe a big family where there can be some push and pull, but really talk about it. I think that was the first thing. I think second thing was just even talking about finances. Sometimes people don't like talking about finances, and parents sometimes can hide things. But my mom was very open and told me, this is what is there. I think it's best if you plan and do ABC. And something else that I think was very practical that she did is she almost had a resource list. And we were very practical, and she asked me, so what do you usually come to me for? In the future, when I won't be there, what do you think you're going to need from me? Let's write a list. Will you need financial advice? Will you need career advice? Will you need just personal relationship kind of advice? Be very practical as to what you come to me for. And she referred me to her very close friends and told me, for ABC, speak to this person, because I know them better. For ABC, try this. Look for a therapist and a counselor for ABC. Look for and she really was very practical about, when I'm not here, these are the people you can go to. And ultimately, she just told me, go to God. Go to God, but these are the practical people you can talk to. Seek a counselor, do a financial management class. And
you even said she took you to the actual shamba and said, this is where it starts, this is where it stops.
She told me, here's a will. Here's a property that I have. Here are the documents that you need.
Property,
and took me and told me, here is the plot. Inaanza hapa and it ends there. You shall not be confused on what is where. I think that really helped a lot with the admin, because I think there's so much death admin.
Dead mean is heavy.
And I think that took a lot of weight off. And it's just following through the processes and the things that she had left for me to do. But at least she gave me a head start.
I know.
She gave me a head start.
And that's really good. That's really good, because also a lot of our parents and that generation doesn't talk about where this stuff is. We're left to figure out on our own. Some stuff gets lost in the process because it was never in the will. It was the lawyer might sit on it. I don't know, whatever it is. So if you're upfront with these things, and I think even my mom did that for us. We had a very clear sense of, and this is like 2013, but she died in 2015. By 2013, we already knew where everything was. And she had not written a will, but it was very clear to all of us that this is going to go 3 ways between you, your sister, and your brother. That's it. Whatever else is, everything is 3 ways. But I do agree that a will is important. Knowing where title deed iko na bank gani kwanza. Is there a loan that we're going to be left repaying? What do we do? That those conversations are important.
Very important.
And not just for terminal illnesses, like you said. There's maybe one last question would be about being honest with yourself, because it looks like you have to almost change up from, when you go back to the hope conversation, change up from, I have a lot of hope, there's going to come a miracle, she's going to get better, to this is now Koki, very practical, this is coming, I need to prepare for this. At what point do you say, okay, I have done my part and now I can, because you look like you wear an armor around you. You look like you've worn this thing and you've carried this thing for a long time. Do you sort of remove it and say, okay, do you break down? Let me now cry. Or do you still do that thing even with your armor or with your blanket?
I think definitely the armor is there to hold you, because without that armor, I remember we used to joke and say we will cry, nobody will console us. It'll be the end. And I think that armor can only sustain you for so much time. And I think what it did, as maybe I didn't give context, I'm a firstborn, a very serious African firstborn daughter, and you pick up that armor and you do things. But at some moment you have to let it down. And I did break down countless times. I still do break down. can just be in the supermarket and it's like, breakdown time, and that armor comes down, and you have to let it come down, or else you won't live authentically and you won't be true to yourself, and it'll catch up with you. So I think, and also I really sought help. Immediately she was diagnosed, I looked for a therapist within, or rather I already had a therapist, but within a week I was already in sessions. And I think that helped me not really monitor myself, but I was able to, I don't say in a healthy way, because there's no wrong or right way of grieving, but it put me in check. Such that I was feeling my feels, and still putting the armor to do things, because things had to get done. And you had to plan, but at the same time you had to get to a point and remove that armor, cry and feel and feel, or else you will feel later and in a different way. But I felt.
So the point is, even when you see it coming, even with anticipatory grief, it doesn't take away the grief that comes after the person is gone. You will still go through that loss.
You will still go through that loss.
And the pain in the heart will still be, even if you saw it coming, even if you discussed.
Even on that day, I remember being in shock, like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, who said that my mom is not here? I think my brain almost did like a reset. And I could not believe how hysterical I was. Yes, I knew. I was like,
you even know what songs you're gonna be.
Yeah, we even knew what songs to play, but
at the funeral.
I remember at some point going to the bathroom and wondering, "Sunny, Nini, lady," like you knew.
Yeah.
And why are you crying like this?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I realized
the piano has fallen.
The piano has fallen. You're crushed, and why are you still crying this much? Why are you feeling all of this? And I realized just because you go through anticipatory grief, it's not even a head start. You still feel that loss, because you planned and you were ready when they were here with you, and now they're not here with you. And I remember telling my friends, it feels like, when you're learning how to ride a bicycle and somebody is pushing you, you're doing just fine because they're pushing you, and then they let go of the bicycle and you have to balance. I think that's how it felt, and I had months of wiggling and wiggling. Now is when I can feel like I'm at least riding a bit. But it felt like someone let go of the bike.
Let go at once, without warning, without telling you.
And just said bye.
Yeah, and then you're on your own.
Yeah, you're on your own. So it does hurt, and it's very heartbreaking how sometimes someone can tell you, at least ulikuwa unajua, or at least you knew. I mean, even her, she used to tell me, at least you know, and I'm like, Mommy, but you don't get to say at least I know, because you're going, like you won't be there with me. It doesn't make it any easier. It helps with the planning, but there's no at least.
Yeah, there's never at least in grieving. There's never ever at least.
Very painful.
But I can see where people are coming from with and I know people say that a lot, especially when it's very sudden, unexpected. It was an accident. It was a heart attack. I can see where they would say that, but it's never. You should never say at least.
Never.
Final question. What would you tell somebody who is deep in this today, anticipatory grief, trying to balance between hope and the reality of this is a terminal illness? Even if the doctors have not called it, you can almost tell it's going to happen soon. And soon could be tomorrow, soon could be a year from now.
Or even 5.
Or even 5, yeah? What would you tell somebody in that situation today?
I'd say the first thing is, again, be very honest with yourself and your person. And I think one word that carried me through that season was love. And show that love. And show that love in a way where they can feel it, and even ask, are you feeling well taken care of? Are you feeling loved? And be present with them. Be present. I think be present. Because at that moment, you are thinking they won't be here. I think it's a very surreal feeling, looking at somebody and knowing that you won't be there. Observe how they hold their hands. Observe everything about them, how they do things, because those memories are what will carry you and how you remember them. Take pictures. Take videos. The voice, take the voice. Laugh, spend time, give stories. If you have any unresolved conflict, talk about it. Forgive each other. Because it feels like a chance you've been given to almost say goodbye. Not everybody gets that chance.
That's true.
Say goodbye. And as much as it is very painful, I have to admit, it gave me some closure. It gave me a lot of closure in that we got to say, bye, I love you so much. You have done this, it was very good. I don't like how you do ABC, please change. It reconciles so much
within you.
And you almost release them. I mean, the releasing is hard because at the end I was still almost holding, but there's that release that comes with it's
Okay.
fine.
Okay. That's really powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Koki, for spending time with us today and for talking to us about your story and sharing your journey with us.
Yeah.
And I pray that, I pray that the grief, I pray that you continue to show up for your grief. And I know you do.
I really do. I
Yeah.
I advocate for it. And just for you too, thank you for having this platform. I think when I was struggling, smack in the middle of anticipatory grief, I looked for resources. Everybody talks about the after, but not enough people talk about the before.
Yeah.
And I remember playing through your episode and thinking, kuna hii episode?
I know.
And looking through online and trying to see what is there about people who have gone through this. And I could rarely find it. I think for me, sharing this part of my story, this episode, is for someone else who's going through this. To just feel like you're not alone, because finding other people who are going through this helped me, and I did not feel like I was crazy.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Stay tuned for other episodes coming out soon. Bye.